This is my $1,000 Honda CBR600F4i, and I, in my infinite wisdom, decided to take it to a racetrack. Now we are out here at MSRH in Houston. First time I've actually been out to this track day, second track day with Ride Smart, and we're out here on the CBR600F4i, which, as some of you may know, I picked up for 1,000 bucks. It was dirt cheap, and it was beat up. It actually didn't run. So I spent just a little bit of money getting it started. And the most expensive thing I put on it was a new set of tires. And we're gonna see how it goes today. I already took the bike over to Roger at On-Road Off-Road, had him do a full setup on the suspension here because it was way messed up. And according to him, the old CBR600F4is, the bikes were sprung for like a 90-pound person right out of the gate. So I'm gonna struggle a little bit. He said I should come back a little bit later during the day because the track's green right now, everything's a little colder. As things heat up, he definitely wants to take another look at the shocks, or take another look at the suspension. But with that being said, all of the pre-track stuff is done. I teched in, signed up, suspension set, now it's time for the rider meeting.
For those of y'all who didn't watch my track day video on the CF Moto 800 NK, what's wrong with you? I'm just kidding, but you might not know that Ride Smart is a Texas-based riding school and not just some track day. That means between sessions, you're gonna be in a classroom learning how to get better at going fast. Despite being promoted out of the novice group at COTA, for this event, I signed back up for the novice group because I have never been to MSRH before and I didn't know the lines, and boy, oh boy, was I glad. The first session was a round robin and I struggled to get anywhere close to the right lines and my pace was all over the place.
Alrighty folks, so we got done with session one. I'm not gonna lie, it was a lot tougher than I thought. So part of my problem is my first track day out with Ride Smart was at COTA, and COTA's flawless. That track is flawless. I mean, it's like a world-class facility. So coming out here to MSRH, where the track is a little bit more imperfect, was tough. So it was a little bit of a wake up, and I'm on a new bike, or on a different bike, so just trying to get in the groove right now. That first session was frustrating, but now we're starting to go through building the sectors out and stuff, making it all work. So time to get back out there.
The way Simon's learning the track course goes is to break the track down into sectors and focus on 3 things to remember per session. For the first session, the mantra was 17, 16, 15, one long circle, throttle out of 14, and center on the hill for 13. With that in my head, I tried to stitch together those first few corners.
Okay folks, done with session 2. Session 2 was way stronger, way stronger. I think I just got in my head for session 1. It felt weird going out there for the first time. I wasn't super confident, but I was able to make it work for session 2. My goal for this time is to absolutely rail on it going out of 7. Set up for 7 so that I can absolutely hammer on the gas. If I can get that done, then I know I'm going pretty good.
The only way that you're going to be in a good place for turn 7 is to set up starting all the way back at 11. The mantra was tight at 11, late at 10 with some gas, then hammer on it for 7. MSRH is designed to fool you though, with 11 and 10 basically repeating themselves for 9 and 8. Too much gas on that short straight between 10 and 9 and you run off the track. Not enough and you're really slow.
Alrighty folks, we're heading out for session 4. Session 3 was tough. I'm starting to get worn out a little bit. I was moving a lot. That trick where you pull on the grip, that's like next level. It makes things so much easier. But because you're working, or because it's easier, you're working harder because you're going faster. So starting to get pretty tired, but we've got finally all the sectors mapped out, got all the homework stuff that I gotta do. So let's suit up for session 4.
While I never felt super confident going through Sector 2, Sector 3 had perhaps the hardest turn on the racetrack for me. The mantra there is late at 6, throttle out of 3, and late apex for 1. The problem is 1 is so far around this corner at 2, and it's so slow going from 6, 5, 4. The whole day, I was never really able to stitch together this sector.
All right, session 4 in the books. We're going into session 5 and I am getting properly tired, but this is my film session. So I need to buck up and act right, because this is the point where I got an instructor following behind me. So I really got to think about my lines and stuff. Got to get my cameras ready and then time to head back out.
It's really easy to get stuck in your own head when you have an instructor following behind you, and it was also late in the day, so I was exhausted, but I did my damnedest to put down at least one good lap. Now, I will fully admit to being slow, but if I can toot my own horn for 1 second, I do think I'm pretty good at moving through traffic on a racetrack, when I'm not causing it, that is.
Alrighty folks, we're getting ready to go out for the last session, and the feedback I got for the last filming lap was basically that I'm not looking through the corners enough, and any of the issues I'm having are a function of not looking through the corners. So that's really what I'm going to practice for the last session. It's only 15 minutes, but I'm going to do my damnedest to make them count, make those last few minutes count. So, see you on the other side.
It might sound stupid, but when you go out for a track day, I'd recommend just setting only one goal for yourself. One skill that you really want to improve on, and while you're working on everything else the instructors are telling you, keep that one thing in mind. For me, looking deeper into the corners was a massive improvement, and I wish I had done it sooner. I would have been less concerned about hitting the apex I was currently missing and more focused on the right lines for the next few. I started to put all this stuff together for the last session, but could have been doing better all day had I had that in mind.
All right, guys, that is a wrap on the day. That was really good. The last session, I started looking through the corners more, trying to anyway, and yeah, felt good, felt good. I'm definitely gonna have to think about all of this and review some of the footage, but all things considered, I'm really impressed with how the little CBR did. And with that, why don't we pass it back to Future Spite in the garage to round things out. Alrighty guys, we're back here in the garage and I wanted to just go over how this bike performed because it was $1,000 and you would expect a motorcycle that you got for that cheap to really fall apart on a racetrack, and honestly, it performed so much better than I anticipated. Did I have the top end of, say, the Double R? No, I don't have the second fuel rail, but did I notice the difference? Not really. Are the brakes as nice as the fancy Nissan radial calipers that they have on modern motorcycles? No, but did I notice the difference? Also no. And for a 10-year-old suspension that my guru Roger specifically said is designed for people less than half of my weight, I'm impressed with how this bike handled around one of the bumpiest tracks I've ever ridden on. Now let's start talking about some specifics here. The first thing that I noticed about this motorcycle is how much I was relying on the top end power to get me around the track faster. I was not as confident going around the slow parts as the coach Elaine who followed me told me. When I was fast, but when I was slow, I was very slow. So what I ended up doing, obviously then, is I'm relying on the top end rush of this bike to get me down the straights very quickly. And you could actually see, thanks to the Chiji on my bike here, I was going faster and faster and faster on those straights and braking later and later, which did allow me to overtake a lot of bigger motorcycles that had to brake sooner. I could just brake later and feel confident on this thing. However, I did feel like it was heavier around a corner than, say, a naked bike would. Now, it sounds like I'm blaming the bike, and I kinda am, but I'm also more inclined to believe that it's rider error. If I was a better rider, I could probably take advantage of the equipment that's on here a little bit better. However, I can say that the time I had on this bike was a blast. All I want to do right now is I want to get this bike out on a racetrack again and see if I can go faster. I want to take it out to Coda so bad and see what it can do down the back straight. There is so much bike here that I got for $1,000. And honestly, I think what that goes to show, more so than anything, is you don't need to go buy some fancy modern leader bike or 600 that costs like between $12,000 and $20,000 to go get on a racetrack. You can get yourself an old beater motorcycle, get it track ready, and have a ton of fun. Some things I do highly recommend checking out if you're going to be buying a beat up old inline 4. First of all, make sure that your chain is right. My chain was a little bit loose towards the end of the day. I had a little bit extra play than I needed to, and I felt a little bit of driveline lash. That wasn't really fun. Another thing, make sure that your pads are right on the bike. This bike, the rear rotor is completely smoked. It is below thickness. I think what ended up happening is the previous owner was dragging the rear brake constantly and they just ate through the rotor. My front pads aren't that much better, but I did put steel lines on this bike before I went to the racetrack because 20-year-old rubber lines did not seem like a particularly smart idea. So if you are gonna get an old bike, there are some ways you can strategically spend money to make it feel better. Most importantly, if you're gonna try to get out on a racetrack for really cheap, do not skimp on your tires. These Rosso 4s that I have on here felt so good, and if I was trying to do this on old street biased rubber, I would not have had nearly as much fun. It might be a one-time expense of $400, maybe $500 if you're not installing it yourself, but it is money well spent. But now that I have a baseline for how this motorcycle feels going around a racetrack, I'm gonna start strategically putting some mods on this bike. These have all been provided by one of the Discord boys, MotoFan, and they're all back there on the shelf. I have a Racetech front suspension, a Racetech rear shock. I've got a Brembo RCS 19 master cylinder, and a few other goodies here and there to slap on this motorcycle that are gonna make it a real ripper. So if you're interested, drop a comment down below and I'll put together an entire video showing you how I modified this motorcycle and the steps that I went through to do it. Because the parts that I have right now are gonna take this from a bargain bin track day bike to something that you could really be proud of. So should be a lot of fun. But the biggest takeaway I want you to get from this video is just go get on a racetrack. It is so much fun. You're gonna learn so much, especially about your motorcycle. You don't have to worry about dropping your bike. I've been on a racetrack now 5 or 6 times on my own motorcycles and never had an issue. So just go have some fun, guys. A huge shout out to the folks over at Ride Smart for putting on some seriously awesome track days. If you're in Texas and you're looking to get out for the first time, highly recommend checking out Ride Smart. Their entire calendar is listed down below. So with that being said, I'm gonna call it a day and I'll catch you guys in the next one. See you later.